Ladies and gentlemen, entrepreneurs, visionaries, leaders, listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you view your setbacks, your delays, and your journey. God's timing is perfect. Let me say that again. God's timing is not just good, it is perfect. But the problem is we often don't like perfect timing. We want or timing. We want that breakthrough now, that income leap now, that success now. But let me ask you, if you had it when you wanted it, would you even be ready? God's timing is perfect, not predictable. This is a truth that challenges our natural instincts and dismantles our desire for control. We live in a world conditioned for instant gratification. We expect results as quickly as we can tap a screen or swipe a card. But the divine operates on an entirely different schedule. It is not bound by our deadlines, our feelings, or our assumptions. And that can be frustrating because we think that if we're ready, then the blessing should be ready too. But readiness in our minds and readiness in God's plan are not always the same thing. Sometimes we mistake movement for progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're aligned. Just because you're prepared in skill doesn't mean you're prepared in spirit. There are moments when we're asking for elevation, but we haven't yet built the foundation to hold what we're asking for. And that's where timing comes in. God's timing takes into account things we can't see, conversations we haven't heard, doors we didn't know existed, people we haven't met yet. While we're trying to rush the outcome, He's orchestrating something far greater than our current view can comprehend. When things don't happen on our timeline, we often assume something is wrong. Maybe we missed a sign. Maybe we didn't pray hard enough. Maybe we failed. But sometimes the delay is not denial, it's divine protection. You think you're ready for that next level, but what you don't see are the attacks waiting for you up there. What you don't see is how your current level of character wouldn't sustain what you're asking for. God is not late. He's not stalled. He's setting things in place with precision and care. Think about the way a seed grows. You plant it in the soil, and nothing visible happens for a while. Days, weeks, sometimes longer. But beneath the surface, things are moving. Roots are stretching out, anchoring deep. That's timing, not instant, but intentional. God's timing allows for a development that we cannot rush because premature exposure can destroy potential. A tree forced to grow too fast will topple at the first strong wind, but one that's allowed to grow deep first will stand firm when storms come. In business, relationships, calling, and purpose, this principle holds true. There are seasons when you'll feel stuck, like everyone around you is moving forward and you're falling behind. That's when the temptation to abandon the process creeps in. You start looking for shortcuts, for hacks, for quick wins. But what if the very thing you're trying to bypass is the thing that will sustain you when you get to where you're going? You cannot predict divine timing. You can plan, you can work, and you should. But you must also yield, because there are moments when the preparation isn't in your hands. The opportunity is being shaped. The stage is being built. And when it's ready, when as you are ready, it will align perfectly. Not early, not late, but in the fullness of time. This kind of timing doesn't make sense to the natural mind. It tests your patience. It tests your trust. But that's exactly the point. You're not just waiting for success. You're being molded by the waiting. You're being refined, tested, and taught to lean not on your own understanding. Predictability brings comfort, but faith is not about comfort. Faith is about conviction. Faith is about obedience even when the calendar doesn't agree. And faith is what activates your alignment with perfect timing. The process is preparation, not punishment. Too often, when we go through hardship, delay, or failure, we interpret it as a sign that we've done something wrong or that we're being overlooked. We question ourselves, we question our calling, and sometimes we even question God. But what we fail to see is that the discomfort of the process is not a prison, it's a classroom. It's not meant to confine you, it's meant to refine you. Every delay, every setback, every challenge is an opportunity for growth. It is part of the preparation required to sustain the blessing you're asking for. We live in a world that glorifies outcomes and ignores development. People want the glory without the grind. They want the platform without the process. But the process is where strength is built. It's where clarity is gained. It's where you learn what you're made of. And more importantly, it's where you develop the capacity to carry what's coming. Because if you can't carry the responsibility, the blessing will crush you. The preparation that happens in the dark is what qualifies you for elevation in the light. Skipping that development will not speed up your destiny. It will sabotage it. When you're in the process, it often feels like you're being stretched beyond your limits. And in a way, you are. But that stretching is making room for more. It's increasing your capacity. It's expanding your vision. You can't step into a higher level of influence, impact, or income without expanding your internal world first. That means being stretched emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and even relationally. And none of that feels comfortable, but it's not supposed to. Comfort is not the goal of the process. Growth is. And growth rarely feels good in the moment. Many people resist the process because they misunderstand its purpose. They think they're being punished for a lack of faith or a lack of favor. But the truth is, the process is often a sign that you are favored, that you are being trusted with more, that you are being prepared for greater. The greater the assignment, the greater the preparation required. That's why people with significant calling often go through intense seasons of shaping. You're not being punished, you're being equipped. The process also reveals what's inside of you. When pressure is applied, what's hidden comes to the surface. That's not a bad thing. That's a necessary thing. Because you can't heal what you don't face. You can't overcome what you don't confront. The process brings it all to the surface, not to shame you, but to free you. To make sure you're not carrying baggage into your next season that will break you under the weight of promotion. There is a pruning that must happen, and pruning is painful, but it's purposeful, it's strategic, it's surgical. Some lessons cannot be taught in theory, they must be lived. There are certain things you only learn through struggle, through loss, through perseverance. Not because God wants to see you suffer, but because He wants to see you strong, durable, rooted, grounded. There is a depth of character that is only forged in fire. And while we want quick results, God wants lasting fruit. So He allows the process to do its work even when we cry out for it to stop. The process also protects you from arrogance. It humbles you. It reminds you that success is not just about skill, but about surrender. That no matter how talented or prepared you think you are, without the development of your heart, your habits, and your mindset, you're building on sand. The process forces you to build on rock. It forces you to go deep before you go wide. And that foundation becomes the anchor that holds you steady when the winds of pressure, criticism, or adversity come. Build the belief before you build the business. Success doesn't start with a product, a service, or a strategy. It starts with belief. It starts with the internal conviction that what you're building matters, that you're capable, and that you are called. Most people think success is an external thing: build a brand, launch a course, run the ads, close the sales. But the truth is, none of that works if your mind is filled with doubt, insecurity, and fear. You can't outwork disbelief. You can't market your way past a mindset that says, I'm not enough. Every action you take flows from your belief system. And if your belief is weak, your business will reflect that. Belief is the blueprint. Before the foundation is laid, before the walls go up, before you ever make a dollar, belief is the first layer that has to be poured. If you believe deeply and truly in your mission, your message, and your value, you'll show up differently. You'll speak with confidence. You'll sell with certainty. You'll endure the setbacks with resilience. But if your belief is shaky, you'll hesitate. You'll procrastinate. You'll self-sabotage. Not because you're lazy or unskilled, but because something in you doesn't fully believe it's possible, or that you deserve it, or that it's meant for you. You can hand two people the exact same business plan. One will flourish and one will fail. And 9 times out of 10, it won't be because of talent or resources. It'll be because of belief. The one who flourishes believes success is inevitable. They see obstacles as part of the path, not as signs to quit. They invest in themselves because they believe the return will come. They show up every day, not just because they want success, but because they believe they are already aligned with it. The one who fails might have more talent, but if they don't believe, they won't act consistently. They'll shrink back at the first sign of resistance. Belief is what fuels consistency, and consistency is what compounds into results. People give up too quickly, not because it's hard, but because deep down, they never believed it would work. So when it gets tough, they retreat. They look for another opportunity, another model, another mentor. But the issue isn't the model. It's the mindset. If you don't believe in your value, it doesn't matter how perfect your funnel is or how compelling your pitch is. That disbelief will bleed through everything you do. People can sense hesitation. They can feel when you're not sold on yourself. And belief isn't just about positive thinking. It's about alignment with your purpose. It's about trusting that what's in you is there for a reason, and that the desire to build something great was planted by design. When you believe that you move with integrity, you're not hustling for worthiness, you're operating from it. You're not trying to prove yourself, you're expressing what you already know to be true. That's why building belief is not optional. It's essential. Belief also sets your standards. When you believe in your value, you don't discount yourself just to make a sale. You don't chase clients, you attract them. You set boundaries. You make decisions from a place of vision, not desperation. That posture of confidence draws people in because belief is magnetic. It changes the energy of every conversation. It transforms how you handle rejection, how you respond to criticism, and how you recover from failure. A strong belief system doesn't eliminate fear, but it overrides it. Before you invest in marketing systems or even mentorship, you have to invest in belief. That's the foundation everything else is built on. Your business can only grow to the level of your self-belief. If you want more externally, you must first expand internally. Belief is the internal infrastructure that holds the weight of success. Without it, everything collapses. You can't microwave mastery. In a culture that promotes speed, shortcuts, and hacks, this truth stands in complete contrast. Real mastery takes time. It requires intention, repetition, and patience. You can't rush greatness and expect it to last. The process of becoming excellent at anything, whether it's business, leadership, communication, or craft, demands commitment to the long game. But most people don't want the long game. They want instant results, instant profit, instant recognition. They want to be exceptional without putting in exceptional effort. But it doesn't work like that. Mastery is forged in the fire of discipline, not the convenience of speed. There is a big difference between information and transformation. You can consume hundreds of books, podcasts, and videos, but that alone doesn't make you a master. Consuming is easy. Applying, failing, refining, and repeating, that's the part most people avoid. Mastery doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from execution. It's the hours no one sees. It's the mornings when you show up tired. It's the nights when you study your mistakes. It's the conversations where you stay humble enough to keep learning. There's no fast forward button for that process. You have to live every frame. Microwaving something gives you heat, but not depth. It's surface level. It looks ready, but underneath, it's inconsistent. That's exactly what happens when people try to shortcut mastery. They might look successful on the outside. They might get a few wins early on, but they haven't developed the depth, the endurance, or the resilience to sustain it. So when pressure hits, when expectations rise, when adversity shows up, they crumble because they skipped the development. They went after speed instead of depth. But mastery can't be faked. Eventually, your level of preparation will be exposed. True mastery is not just about skill, but about becoming the kind of person who embodies excellence. It's about who you become in the process of getting good. The hours you put in are not just refining your talent, they're shaping your character. You start to see the nuances, the patterns, the timing. You begin to anticipate problems before they happen. You stop reacting and start responding with clarity. That kind of wisdom doesn't come from a course or a weekend seminar. It comes from being in the game long enough to understand how it really works. In business, this principle is non-negotiable. You can't expect to build a thriving enterprise overnight. You need to learn your market, study your audience, master your offer, refine your messaging, and build systems that last. And all of that takes time. You'll make mistakes. You'll lose money. You'll launch things that flop. But every misstep is part of your mastery. Every lesson costs something. That's why people who are truly great in their field have scars. They didn't get there by accident. They paid the price. The question is, are you willing to pay it? Microwave success is tempting because it's easier. It avoids the grind. It lets you skip the discomfort of failing in public or struggling in private. But what you gain quickly, you often lose just as fast. What you build slowly, you understand deeply. And when you understand something deeply, you can lead with authority, not just noise. You become someone people trust, not because you say the right things, but because you've lived them. You've earned them. You've walked through the refining process that can't be manufactured. The world doesn't need more people chasing speed. It needs more people committed to mastery, people who are willing to stay in the process longer than it feels good. People who don't just want applause, they want impact. People who measure success by depth, not just exposure. That kind of person is rare, but they are the ones who rise and stay. They're not chasing moments, they're building legacies. They don't burn out because they're built from the inside out. And the reason is simple. They didn't microwave it. They mastered it. If you skip the process, you skip the power. Everyone wants the promise, but very few are willing to endure the process required to carry it. There's a price attached to purpose, and that price is the process. You can't shortcut your way to strength. You can't bypass struggle and still expect to carry authority. The process is where you learn endurance, integrity, discernment, and wisdom. These are the very things that give power to your voice, your vision, and your impact. Power is not just about position or visibility. It's about internal fortitude. It's about spiritual and emotional maturity. And that only comes through the process. When you try to leapfrog over the hard parts, you rob yourself of what those hard parts were meant to produce in you. You want the platform, but the platform demands preparation. You want the influence, but influence without depth becomes dangerous. When people are elevated without process, they end up crumbling under the weight of what they asked for. They might look powerful for a moment, but when the pressure comes, and it always comes, the cracks begin to show. That's because power that's not forged is fake. It's shallow, it's fragile. Real power is forged in the fire. The process is not just something to get through. It's something to be shaped by. It's the gym where your spiritual and mental muscles are built. You don't become strong by reading about strength. You become strong by being stretched, tested, and refined. The lessons you learn in private become the confidence you carry in public. The tears you cry in the quiet become the fuel for the fire that lights others. And without those moments, your power has no depth. It's only performance, and performance will always drain you. Process builds substance, and substance sustains power. People who skip the process often chase validation. They look for applause to fill the void that only development can fill. They launch too early, speak too loudly, and build too quickly because they're looking for identity and outcomes instead of being rooted in who they've become through the process. But outcomes are temporary. The internal strength built through process is permanent. You may lose the title, the income, or the position. But what was built in you through the process, no one can take that away. That's where the power is. Not in what you have, but in who you are. There's also a clarity that comes through process. When you walk through seasons of refining, your vision sharpens. You begin to discern what matters and what doesn't. You stop chasing trends and start pursuing truth. That level of focus gives you an edge that can't be copied. Imitators may try to replicate your methods, but they can't duplicate your process. They weren't there for the pain, the prayer, the persistence. And because of that, they won't carry the same authority. Power isn't in the method, it's in the story. And stories are written in the trenches. Every setback, every delay, every disappointment you endure in the process is doing more than you think. It's stretching your faith. It's exposing your weaknesses so they can be healed. It's increasing your capacity so you can carry more. If you skip those steps, you may still achieve something, but you'll lack the depth to sustain it. Power isn't about speed, it's about sustainability. It's not about how fast you can rise. It's about how long you can stand. The process teaches you how to stand. It teaches you how to keep showing up when it's not glamorous, when no one is watching, when the results are slow. There are no shortcuts to true power. There is no fast lane to deep impact. If you want to be trusted with more, you have to allow yourself to be shaped by more. The process is not punishment. It's preparation for power. It's where the foundations are built, where the roots go deep, and where your internal world is calibrated for the weight of the calling ahead. You're not being buried, you're being planted. There's a big difference between the two, but when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to tell. Both feel like darkness. Both feel like isolation. Both feel like pressure from every side. But one leads to death and the other leads to life. When something is buried, it's over. It's the end. But when something is planted, it's only the beginning. The soil feels the same in both cases, but the intention is completely different. And that's the mindset shift you have to make when you're in a season that feels hidden, overlooked, or stuck. You're not being buried to be forgotten. You're being planted to grow. Growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens underground. It happens in the unseen, the uncomfortable, the silent seasons where it feels like nothing is working and no one is noticing. But that's the exact place where roots go deep. Before anything breaks the surface, roots are being established. And those roots are what will sustain you when you do come into visibility. Without deep roots, growth is shallow. Without deep roots, success becomes unstable. So if it feels like you're in the dark, trust that there's a purpose to that darkness. It's where foundation is formed. When you're planted, you don't look like much. From the outside, people may think you've lost momentum. They may say you missed your chance. They may wonder why you're not producing yet. But seeds don't sprout on command. They sprout in due time. That's why comparing your season to someone else's will always lead to frustration. You don't know how long they've been planted. You don't know how deep their roots had to go. Your journey has its own timing. And just because you can't see the fruit yet doesn't mean nothing is happening. In fact, the most important work is happening where no one can see it. Being planted means surrendering to a process that doesn't always make sense. You'll have days where everything you're doing feels like it's not working. You'll question the vision, the calling, the purpose. You'll wonder if you heard God wrong or if you made a mistake. But those questions are part of the planting. They're part of the breaking, because a seed must break open before it can grow. And breaking feels like failure, but it's actually the doorway to expansion. The pressure is not against you. It's working for you. It's creating space for the new thing to emerge. You can't rush what's being formed underground. You can't demand harvest before it's ready. If a seed is forced to grow too quickly, it becomes weak. If it's given time, it becomes strong. That's why hidden seasons are sacred. They're not a waste, they're a womb. A place where identity is clarified, vision is purified, and strength is multiplied. That's what being planted does. It prepares you for visibility by equipping you in obscurity. You learn to stand before you're seen. You learn to trust before you're celebrated. You learn to persist before you're promoted. The danger is in misinterpreting the season. If you believe you're buried, you'll stop growing. You'll give up. You'll grieve a future that's still alive. But if you believe you're planted, you'll wait with expectation. You'll water the seed even when there's no sign. You'll keep showing up, praying, building, refining, because you know what's coming. Not because of what you see, but because of what you believe. That belief becomes your anchor in the dark. The greatest transformations don't happen in front of crowds. They happen in quiet, obscure moments when no one is clapping and no one is watching. Those are the moments that prepare you for the weight of what's ahead. Because when the harvest comes, and it will, you'll need the strength, the humility, and the depth that only planted people carry.